Morning. Well, as you know, I'm Bill Kessler. Nice to see all of you. Turn it this way.
Yeah, it's just as close as you can.
All right. Is this all right?
Yes.
All right. And everyone have a handout? Yeah. So I thank you for coming this morning. This being asked to do this actually gave me the incentive to do what I usually don't do after trips, which is to record it and figure it out. Usually just take the pictures and look at them 10 years later and wonder what was what. So, so, so this actually is very helpful for me. So did a little show, and I thought we'd start with that video, which you've seen 1,000 times here. I think it pretty much sums up how you are integrated with the animals when you're on safari. And so we used to, of course, the fences and the cages and so on and so forth. Probably looks very scary, but it wasn't. It isn't because they're used to us. And the chances of something happening apparently is very rare. I don't know anybody who's ever eaten or mauled, but all the animals are like that. So I thought I'd start with Africa. So I think sometimes we think of Africa as being like two pieces, which is the Arab desert, and then the sub-Saharan South, which is all African Americans, Africa. But it's so much more diverse than that. And where we went on a 3.5-week tour. Where we went is these countries down here. I'll show you a bigger map in a minute. So you can see we started at Capetown. I'll tell you who the group is in a minute. And worked our way up through Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and where all these countries meet is Victoria Falls. And yeah, well. Hey, Karen, how you doing? So South Africa is all this area. What it has in common is that at one time, it was all under British rule. And then Namibia, the one on the left, became under German rule. And since we are German Lutherans in part, that was interesting what happened there, and still is. So South Africa itself, the country, is very diverse and large and cosmopolitan and crime-ridden and prosperous and scenic and awful. It has many of the characteristics of Australia, Europe, United States. I thought it was overrated. Namibia, which we talk a lot about over here, the one in orange, is a very barren land. It's like 98% desert. It has the second lowest population density in the world after Mongolia. It has a heritage first of Native Africans and then Germans and then Chinese. And it is it's very empty, and it's very heavy into uranium, which we'll talk about a little bit. Botswana is the most prosperous of all these. And it's prosperous because diamonds. Zimbabwe, for us really old people, that was Southern Rhodesia. And Namibia was German Southwest Africa. And Botswana was Bukaland. So Zimbabwe had the same president, Robert Harari, for time of independence, 1960s, until we were there. We had an election in November this last year. Very peaceful elections everywhere. All of these are constitutional democracies with presidents. And they all basically are well-functioning democracies. And Zambia is the least developed of all of them, and that's old Northern Rhodesia. So population-wise, South Africa has 64 million people, and the rest of them together have 45 million. Namibia only has 3 million. The median age, when I say all these things, it's other than South Africa. So these countries here, these 4 countries, the median age is 18. The per capita income in Botswana, it's 8,000 a year, which is quite high if you think about it. Down to 1,000 a year for Zambia, which has no minerals. The life expectancy is about 58. The white population is about 3%. The Asian population is about 2%. The rest is black. There's very little mixed race marriages or anything else, except for in Capetown. This is the way south. Foreign investment. So historically, the British and the French have invested heavily in Africa over the years, but that's dwindled. And America was 3rd. Now America is 5th behind the Netherlands, and ahead of us for the last 10 years is China. So China has a very strong influence in many of these countries. You'll see in a minute what we rode on, which was a Chinese motor bus. Crime, safety, except for South Africa, again, it's all very safe. I'd say it's as safe as Madison. Another misconception. Friendliness index, everyone was just warm, fuzzy, friendly. Cost of travel, which we'll get to, quite reasonable. English speaking, as they were former British colonies, everybody speaks English. I mean, like really everybody. It's top 10 countries in the world of English speakers as a percentage of population. Namibia is the only country in the world outside of Europe that has a Lutheran majority. Figure that. And the Germans are only there from 1884 to 1919. So it's at 35 years. So during that time, they just imposed the German Lutheran culture. The climate for all these areas is mostly desert. The big desert we hear about all the time is the Kalahari. Talk a little bit about that as we go through this. We were there at the end of dry season, at the end of a drought. So it was really dry. Actually, it's a wonderful time to go on safari because there's no leaves to hide the animals, and because the animals need the watering holes to get liquid, so they're easier to find. So strange as it sounds, it's a good time to go. Temperature-wise, get up to 104 degrees in the daytime, and it was in the high 50s at night. The desert does cool off. Communication, I say 95% of the time we had internet, which is amazing. Another thing you don't think about. Roads and vehicles, good, mostly built by the Chinese. And there's very little rain. So the unpaved roads stay graded. So it's much easier than traveling, say, on the unpaved roads in Mexico, which are full of potholes. The food, not unlike ours. You'll see a picture of a deli and a shopping center. And, for lunch one day is like going to Metcalfe's, ordering your sandwiches, which you don't expect. We had a few meals of strange stuff, but most of us, we knew what it was and fine. Medical, they all have universal health care, and I would not have hesitated to use the hospitals at all. They look great. I was fortunate enough to have gone there 20 years ago with Jeff to Africa, a different part, Kenya and Tanzania. So it was remarkable to me the changes in Black Africa in that one generation. There's a middle class now. So there's lots more cars in the road. A lot of people are, most people are highly educated, thanks to the British. And it's a whole different feel than it was in the early 2000s. All right, with that, we'll go on tour. So there's the T-shirt, which kind of shows the various places. See, we started at Cape Town on the bottom, and up Victoria Falls near the top. So that was three 3,200 miles in 3 weeks. And the group we went with turned out to be fabulous. It was called G Adventures out of Toronto. I just found them because it fit. Oh, the red button. Great. Right. A new toy. Thank you. G Adventures out of Toronto. And it turned out to be a fascinating group because they do like the middle road of adventures. So it wasn't a luxury trip by any means. On the other hand, we're not living in hovels. So I'll go to the expense in a minute. And the people they attracted, I was the only American on the trip. Judy didn't go, by the way, so she's listed as having gone, but she wisely did not go. And so we had 18 people from 7 countries. That was kind of fun. And that's the Chinese tour bus, which is fine. So we had USB port in the back of every seat, plenty of room for storage. Underneath, we had our tents and our bags and whatever. By the way, what I took for packing is way back there. It's a backpack and a mini sleeping bag. That's all we needed. And to get my age, a lot of it was medications and connective equipment. So we start with the southern tip of Africa. So many of us have heard of the Cape of Good Hope, and I know I had my thoughts of what it was, but I was surprised to find out what it was. So this is it. This is the southern tip of Africa. And we walked down there from on top of Table Rock Mountain, which overlooks Cape Town. Has anybody here been to Cape Town? Did you like it? I didn't. Right. So it's a fabulous setting because you see you have these cliffs and so on. And you take a funicular up to the top, and it was a rainy day, very misty, and you get to see the penguins. So you don't have to go to Antarctica. You can see the penguins right here, and they were a lot of fun. They're very friendly. This is the rabbit. Uh, so much of South Africa, they talk about the wine country, and we're not wine drinkers, so, but we did go one place, try to sell us wine. So this is like a picture of the group of people, so you can see the who they were. They are. So one reason I had a good time. Yes, they were. I'd say the average age is probably 38. Yep. And so they were lively, and they took care of the couple grandpas on the trip. So they always made sure, we made it back to camp and whatever. Like she's a school teacher in Switzerland. She's a hairdresser in Devon, England. She lives in Vancouver. She's a nurse in Switzerland. He's a retired IT guy, travels the world, and from England. He's from Toronto, England. My friend, David Cray, who lives in Ottawa, etc. Yeah, it was cool. Typical place to eat, outdoor grilling. So this is not on a safari, just randomly you see animals. So everyone just like when you go through our national parks, you have someone look out to see if they see the antelope or the bear or the whatever. Here, someone said, "Hey, there's a leopard." This I enjoyed because we got car stickers here for insurance and real estate. This is for funeral services. So it says something about the culture. This other picture, and we have all these funeral services. Great. So at the end of we're still in South Africa. The end of South Africa is Bird Island. So talking about cormorants. Sunset on the ocean. Welcome to Namibia, which is the reason I wanted this particular trip was a good time of year. The money was right. The size of the group seemed right. There seemed to be enough flexibility. And it highlighted some of the things I really wanted to see, which included Namibia and the sand dunes, which we'll see in a minute, in addition to the safaris, which are wonderful. And I did want to see Cape Town. I did want to see Victoria Falls. So this particular trip did all of them. One of the places we stayed, nice looking, right? This is the road in Namibia. So you have hundreds of miles of this. So it's like a moonscape. And a few of the roads in Namibia are paved, but the rest of them are just very nice flattened gravel. And you think you are going to the middle of nowhere because you are. And if you want to get out and hike, you can do the same thing, which is hike. And the background here is a huge canyon. They claim it's the second largest canyon in the world. Not necessarily in depth, but in width and length. Again, I felt like I'm on the moon. And here's another random animal wandering around. So you always think of zebra, all these animals as being like in a pack with a savanna or jungle trees. And here they are out in the desert. So these are basically desert wild animals. And Namibia has the world's largest underground lake. That's where their water comes from. And their national tree is the quiver tree, which is very odd. We came to love them. This is what amounts to shade. More random zebra. Here's the tent site. As Judy pointed out, she said, whatever these are trying to protect you against, just don't bring them home. I have no idea why they put those little rocks around us, but they did. Maybe you can see the wind blowing. There was a constant breeze. We had recreational time, so these campsites had swimming pools. Right? Weird. That's the hairdresser having a beer. This is the nurse who was thought cleanliness is next to godliness, so she's washing her socks all the time. I didn't do that. Here's our tour director. He's a really good guy. So he is an Afrikaner. Everyone know what an Afrikaner is? A Dutch South African person, heritage. Really good guy. So he does for a living. He only had one leg. So of course we thought maybe a lion ate it or something, but he didn't have that great a story. But he was super. At night, we'd sit around the campfire in the middle of the desert. And I remember we're in the open, so animals could wander through if they wanted to. Now we're getting to the sand dunes. So you can see they have a reddish color because of the minerals in them. And these sand dunes are along the coast. So you look back at the map, the coast of Africa, Atlantic Ocean, these are coastal dunes. In the middle of it is something called Midvale, which is a forest that dried up 900 years ago and was so dry in the desert that the trees never disintegrated. So you walk into a forest of dead trees from 1,000 years ago. Think about it. It's a fascinating place with all these monstrous sand dunes around you. The tallest of the dunes is the same height as the Empire State Building. And here we go climbing one of them.
Bill, time for a question?
The mic? Oh, question, huh?
I see the pictures of you walking on the dunes, and I'm just kind of wondering what the consistency of the sand is. Is that really soft, slidey around, squishy, hard to walk on?
Good question. No. Right.
What was the sand like, Bill?
No, it's not. It's been hardened over the years. I don't know why, but probably because of lack of rain. I don't know. Build up. So these dunes are allegedly 700 million years old. It's supposed to be the oldest desert in the world. And then all the winds, of course, come from the west, right? Everywhere in the world. So that's what's built up these dunes on the eastern coast of Africa. Here we are climbing up to the top of Dune 45, which they allow us to climb up, which is about the size of the Empire State Building. It takes 45 minutes. At least took me that. And I was the slowest for sure. So where are we? So here's the Tropic of Capricorn. We're the Tropic of Cancer in the north, and it's Tropic of Capricorn in the south. Another picture of that huge canyon right there on the tropic. So once you get into town, looks like a normal shopping center, right? And it was, sort of. This is the Namib High School, built by the Chinese. And this is a evangelical Lutheran church being rehabbed. They've been doing it for 12 years. So probably have a slow fundraising project there. There's a house for sale, so that maybe we're in real estate. So it interested me. So this house, the price is here. So what is that? That's $212,000. So for $212,000, you get a nice house with a swimming pool, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, almost no taxes. But you're living in Namibia. So here's the dunes that are actually on the ocean. I don't know, I'm not a great photographer, so all these pictures were taken with my iPhone. So it's hard to get the depth of looking down to the ocean, but we're up about, I don't know, 600 feet. My friend trying to get a picture. I thought the dunes themselves were worth the trip. This will show you the power of the wind here. And climb up to the top. And on the other side, of course, is a steep drop off into the ocean. Jackals. So they're interesting, as jackals are. One of the interesting things, how do they get their water? So they get their water by getting up early and licking the dew off the leaves of the plants. Yes, a desert creature. And we went on a little desert safari, and so we found underground snakes and lizards and other creatures in the desert. It's kind of fun. We all know who that is. Wally. So when the animal died, the skulls are just like left there. They get bleached out in the sun, and so it's kind of like an outdoor graveyard. One of the industries of Namibia, harvesting sea salt. Another huge industry is they dive for diamonds. So they actually are diamond mines at the bottom of the ocean. They're professional divers that do that. So now we're getting into the first of our 3 safaris. So there went on a safari in Namibia and in Botswana. And this one is the Namibian place, national park. It's called Etosha. So here, there's 100 different mammals. We went around on 4-wheelers. Of the 5 big animals in Africa, they call them the big 5, which is the lion, the leopard, the elephant, the buffalo, which, by the way, is the meanest, and the rhino. So here you get 4 of the 5. And actually, people from cruise ships go here. They spend an extra day, and then they go into this one because it's close to the ocean. They got a zillion zebras and springbok, which are antelopes, giraffes. And as you can see right here, they do a really good job of just hanging out with each other. And again, no fences. You're just wandering around with these things. I think they're kissing. I'm not sure. That's the honey badger, which is very rare and apparently, and also is very vicious. And the only honey badger I ever heard of was some defensive back from LSU about 10 years ago. Nickname was honey badger. after seeing the animal, I see how I got the name. It's a well-fed pack of lions resting under a tree in the savannah. And that was their food. So this is the way they do it. They're the leader, guide antelope. And this guy is the rear guard. That's what they do. They take turns doing that. They're on lookout for lions.
Male and female, both of them.
This guy's right up here saying, okay, it's fine. So these 2 zebras in the middle were very entertaining, which you'll see in a moment. No idea what they're arguing over. I think they're just two teenagers. What are the stripes?
Hard to tell. Oh, the one about.
So every day, every hour, you see something like this. The unexpected. We live in downtown Madison, which we moved to also for the unexpected. Africa's no different. Not sure what you're going to run across any day, any moment. Another random giraffe. All right, so now we get to the Ovaconco Swamp, which was, other than the sand dunes, my favorite part. So the Okavango Delta, you're in a river delta is, of course, like the Mississippi comes out in Louisiana, and all rivers flow into the ocean, except this one. This one, Okavango River, flows from Angola through Botswana, through Namibia, through Botswana, into the Kalahari Desert. So it actually deltas into a desert. So you get there by dugout canoe or modern kayak. Yes, there's crocodiles. This is very bizarre, very strange, but very cool. The local tribe helping us. That was their career. This is my friend from Canada went with, and that's our tour guide. All right, we got our tents up again. And this was the site of two of my 9 lives. You know, we get 9 lives, right? when we got up at 6:30 in the morning, we realized, or we didn't realize, we were alerted that we were in the midst of a hive of African bees. So at 6:30 in the morning, as we're taking down the tents, all of these bees started attacking us. And I'd had an allergic reaction to bees here at Camp Randall. So I thought, well, this is how I'm going to die. I always wonder, right? So I had like 4 bee bites, whatever. Obviously, it didn't do that, but they were incredible. Swarm, you couldn't run away from them. My biggest fear, I was running around with my shirt over my head, was I trip and fall on a rock or something. But turned out all right. So you can see the animals, elephants right there by our kayaks, dugouts. You got close to these guys.
Bill, Nancy has a question. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, it's Nancy. Of course you got a question.
Well, back to the elephants. How are they faring in that country? And is there a lot of tusk removal and death, or are they fairly safe there?
They're in good shape. Yeah. These are very, actually, these are very sophisticated, alert cultures. So they're very caring and protective of their animals for 2 reasons. One, they love the animals, and 2, we wouldn't come where there's no animals to see. Same reasons that the cartels don't kill the tourists, because that's their customer. Yeah, everything's okay with the elephants here, except in Rwanda and Uganda that there's more of a problem. Again, different mammals having fun with each other. Hippos. So, dead animal. So this is the second of my 9 lives. This is a safari where we walked. There was no vehicle. So after we left that camp that you saw, where the bees found us, or we found the bees, then you took 2-3 hour walks, and you went to find the animals. So I found the hippos, the rhinos, the lions, the whatever. So I have atrial fibrillation. So in the middle of all that, it was like 100 degrees out, and I hadn't had enough to drink. So all of a sudden, I found myself, I couldn't walk. People have had that, they know what I mean. So I just had to lay down. I said, well, maybe I'll get eaten or whatever, you guys go on. So they all happened. Shara and I, when we were in Costa Rica, same thing. So obviously I wasn't eating, and after 45 minutes, I got up and it was fine. But neither of those incidents have anything to do with the danger of Africa as much as me and bad luck with the bees. This is the guy that saved me. He's our 18-year-old guide after I collapsed in the savannah. And we're coming back, and it's getting dark. He wasn't sure the directions, and our regular path had been moved in by a pack of elephants, so we couldn't go there. So he had to find a roundabout path to go to. He wasn't sure, but anyway, he did. We had a nice sunset. Everything was well. And then our hosts.
It's
another clip I'm not gonna show you, but they got us up and dancing around the campfire with them. It was kind of fun.
Hey, Bill, do you know what that song was about? Okay.
No.
Okay.
All right. So then after that, we went to an elephant camp. So here, um, they have a watering hole for the elephants to be attracted, and you are elephants, you. And in the background, you see those houses. Those are the houses we stayed in, and they're right in the path that the elephants trek to the water hole. So on back of each of them, I didn't show that picture. There's like a cement protective thing to warn the elephant that they're going to be walking into a house to keep, so they move aside. And the elephants, of course, very friendly. Kind of fun watching the parents with the kids. So here's where we stayed. Here's where the elephants are. Having a good old time. Then from there, well, I put the map up again. We have our four corners of Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico. They have their four corners of Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and Botswana. And that's where Victoria Falls is. So kind of fun. Get to have a pizza or go to one of these countries. And see, now we have a paved road because we're in the city. And again, this is not like we perceive Africa to be, right? Yard markers, speed limits, pizza. So 20 years ago, we went to Tanzania and Kenya. Many Maasai were there, and so they all wore the traditional outfits and herded just like they did 300 years ago. Here, these are reenactors. This is a mother and two children. So people don't walk around like this. They walk around like us. Now we're going to the most popular of this in this area of safaris is called Chobe National Park, CHOBE. It's near Victoria Falls, and there's two parts to it. One, you're on the Mbezi River. The river is the dividing line between Zambia and Zimbabwe, and where Victoria Falls is on the river. So now you're on a evening cruise on the river to get to see all the cool animals come down. Just seeing everybody in nature is so cool. You see how that guy was a leader? Make sure it's all safe. Same with the their boat sundown cruise. Wild dogs. Lion after had a big meal. The entourage. The baby elephants were our favorite. This could be a pet, right? Giraffes really do well at posing. Not as many monkeys as you would think. Now we're on to Victoria Falls. So now we've covered 3,000 miles in 26 minutes. Brevity is important, right, in life? So Victoria Falls. It is the world's largest waterfall in terms of volume, in terms of a combination of width, which is 1 mile, and height, which is more than a football field. It's like 400 feet high. on average. And it is on the river that divides Zimbabwe and Zambia. It's where Dr. Livingston was, of course. And it's very accessible. They've done a pretty good job of not over touristing it. Certainly, we're seeing. And there's constant rainbows. And as you look at the water, remind everyone that we are here in the dry season at the end of a drought. So the good news of that is because if you're there in the wet season, you can't see anything because the mist of the water is so powerful that it's like walking in a dense fog. You see nothing. You see 3 feet in front of you. So again, you're better off seeing at a time of dry season and drought. We went in October, which is their dry season. See the black rocks, the water, of course, right the frame, is covered. Very well. Love the rainbows. Then, of course, it channeled out into a canyon. And on top of the canyon, there was a railroad that was actually built in the 1880s by the British, still there. You see next to the railroad is a bungee jump. Where people are bungee jumping as the train goes by. The train is headed from Zimbabwe to Zambia. I'm now standing on the Zambian side. So on the Zambian side was a little place to get coffee or a beer. And of course, I ran into a women's church group, an outing from Zimbabwe into Zambia for the day. So they adopted me. They're fun. And these are the 4 flags of the 4 countries. And of course, every country has its own beer. They're all pretty good. And that's the tour. Thank you. So questions? Cost, you want to know cost? It's on the sheet. So cost was like, for us, was like $4,500. Not bad, right? And the airfare was about $1,000 each way. I think 800 one way and 1,100 the other way. So I flew United Airlines from Chicago to DC and DC to Cape Town. And coming back, we're in Victoria Falls. So the only direct flight out of there was Air Ethiopia, which actually is one of the world's leading airlines now. So there you transfer in Addis Ababa. So I got to see that a little bit. I do a fuel stopover in Rome and you're home. Each trip is about 27 hours. And if you can sleep on the plane, great. If you can't, oh well. Time zone wise, some people, like, at this age, you wake up in the middle of the night anyway. So time zones don't matter. Hey, Rob.
So the 2 incidents that you had, did you actually consider those life-threatening incidents?
Life ending.
Yeah. Seriously?
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. I exaggerate, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've had a few, right? We all had a few where you go like, oh, this is it. And then you recover and you move on and realize that you overreacted a little bit.
One last question.
Yeah, yeah.
If you had to cite, say, the two biggest surprises for you on the trip, what were they?
Good question. The biggest surprises. Well, the first one was how much Africa had improved economically in the 20 years since I've been there. So I went there. The assumption was the same as it was 20 years ago, which is that rural, dusty roads, native attire, schools without electricity, whatever. And then parallel to that is the reason for it. The reason for it is because of the Chinese investment. So China cut a deal with Namibia, as an example, said, give us all your uranium and we'll give you schools, roads, hospitals. They said, okay. Fair for both of them. So the involvement of new third world countries is what did that. So the other was when you're we're here and you see a black person, you still think it's a black person. I mean, it is because we're that way. There, everyone's black except you. And within 2 minutes, you're colorblind. And I remember that from 20 years ago, but I'd forgotten. That's kind of cool. So you really are totally colorblind. And there's very good integration of black and white there. You know, white population is only 2-3%. They're mostly people who have lived there all their lives. Although I did meet one artist in Madison. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait for a second.
I just think when you're talking about the economic situation, you're comparing two different countries that you saw over a 20-year period. And I'm just thinking if you were to have visited Tanzania again, you might have seen a lot of poverty still.
Oh, there is. There's poverty everywhere. So all these countries have 25% unemployment.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of poverty. And Tanzania, I checked, they really have moved forward just the way these countries have. It's that in the cities and the areas where you're in, there has been marvelous progress. So,
Yeah.
if you're searching for poverty, there's no problem. You find it in these places.
Yeah, I would think so.
Jocelyn? Sure.
Brooke has us well trained. Oh, now I lost it.
We'll come back to you.
First of all, do they
Not a problem.
do they drive on the left? It looked like
Oh, good question. You drove, let's see, we drove on our side of the road. Even though it's British colonies, we drove on our side of the road.
it's interesting.
Or did we?
Much safer.
No, we didn't. I never drove, so I didn't pay attention.
It looked like the
No, I
truck.
try to think where the bus driver was seated. So the bus driver was seated in the right front. So we did that. We did the British side of the road, but I didn't drive, so I didn't care.
Right. Right.
I'm pretty good at blocking out things that like that.
Questions? Oh,
I'm just wondering how far Kenya is from where you're.
How far Kenya is from here?
Mhm.
About 1,000 miles.
Well,
There's two countries in between. There's Zambia, which is that big country that's all northern Rhodesia, and that touches Tanzania, and Tanzania touches Kenya.
So, Bill,
Yeah, I put the map back in.
of the 52 or 54 countries in Africa, how many have you visited? And also, I don't know whether you have opinions or knowledge or both of why there are civil wars seemingly more toward the middle of Africa, and are there lesser now or none at all in the countries you visited as part of this trip?
Great questions. So there's actually 64 countries in Africa. Yeah, they keep splitting off, right? Yeah, no, it's fine. I visited very few. So I visited Egypt, Morocco in the north, and Tanzania, Kenya, and these 5. So 9. Why there are wars in the Congo and areas like that? It's tribes. So as we all know, the Europeans divided the countries on parallels, meridians, that had nothing to do with historic, just like the states, the United States and our Native American reservations did nothing to do with who was there. So minorities, majorities keep fighting each other. You know, the Hotel Rwanda, that was all about that. And that's what continues today in the Congo. So in these areas, there's clearly a dominant historic tribe in these countries, and they are tolerant of the minorities and pretty much have integrated. So why that has happened, I don't know. I would credit the British, I guess, in part, because some of these other countries that are always at war were French, Belgian, which did very little to bring forward the civilization that was there. Whereas, like I mentioned before, the British did a terrific job of educating Africans during the colonial period.
What's it like to sleep in a tent in Namibia?
Well, good question. What's the reason Judy didn't go? Well, first of all, anyone knows me knows I have 10 thumbs. So I had to find somebody who could help me set up the tent. So that was simple. Right. So,
Oh,
well,
you
I
said
didn't
Bill didn't
remember
know he was
going
gonna
left
be
or
in a
right side of the
tent.
road. I didn't really read the details of this trip until 3 days before. And the guy that Canada I went with said, "What's this bringing the sleeping bag stuff?" I said, "I don't know." So then was when we discovered that we were in a tent. So yeah, do it. So thank you, Amazon. The tent was, or sleeping bag was delivered. There's a little one back there. And it's fine. So what is it like? It had a cot. It was a newer tent because it was a good tour service. The two of us in the tent could stand up. Had a zillion zippers, which always confused me, but it's fine. There were very few insects, so I didn't have to worry too much about that. The reason for the sleeping bag was because it was supposed to be cold, but you're so tired at night, didn't care. So I used to use the sleeping bag as a pillow. I didn't even need to bring it. The porta potties, the bathrooms, earth bathrooms. So what you do is you dig a hole in the sand, and then they put a little toilet chair on top of it, and the toilet paper and so on, and that's it. And then when you're done, you scoop some sand on top of it, you load back, and then it's around the corner behind a bush, and there's a flag in the bush. So the flag's up, it's being used, down, it's okay. That help?
Did you see any Chinese people?
Hmm?
Did you see any Chinese people?
No, not even a Chinese restaurant. But Namibia has 46,000 Chinese residents. They're probably all working in the uranium mines.
But somebody's building the stuff they're.
Oh yeah, the stuff been built now for 10, 15 years, right? Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've been there since the mid 2010s. They passed us in investment there in 2013. Mm-hmm.
So it's so dry over there. What do the animals eat besides each other?
Yeah. Well, the only one that eats each other is the lion. There is vegetation, and it's like that one tree that we saw that's edible, and there's a lot of ground cover that they eat. There is vegetation because it has the like I said, the world's largest underground river or lake. So there is water sources, although it only rains like 14 inches a year. There's tons of underground water. So they do have an ample supply. And so all those animals, the lions, the zebras, the elephants can live in the desert, which is amazing.
Well, thanks for sharing all this. This is
Yeah.
really.
Well, thanks for helping me set this up.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for coming.